Shawn, it's great to be with you this afternoon. Thank you for coming into town, spending some time with us this afternoon to talk about what it means to be an entrepreneur, what it means to be a business leader, and to do it in a place in the, Columbus is near and dear to your heart.
Yep.
I believe so in many.
Like say it's my second home here, right? Right.
And you travel so much. I'm sure you have many homes that have grown up with great friends and family, colleagues. But thank you for coming. And, Shawn Springs, founder and CEO of Windpact.
Yep.
Based out of
Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia area.
Northern Virginia.
Leesburg, Virginia, probably about 45 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. We like to say that's God's country out there, the Virginia wine country, man.
Yeah.
So most people know Ashburn because that's where all the data centers are. In Leesburg, historic Leesburg. So,
and those keep popping up.
Yep. They keep coming up.
They keep coming to Columbus too.
That's right.
So this is like home.
Yep.
And one of the things that we talk often on the show with founders is, how storytelling is central to the process of the path to success. And even if there is a good product and something that the world needs, our ability to tell the world what that is, why they need it, and to tell partners why they should be a part of what we're building, and to be able to find the right ones is a skill that is more art than science. Some stumble into it, some are born with it. Others work really hard and commit to improving and honing that craft and do it very well. But it seems, in my mind, to be a turning point for a lot of leaders and something that we're not as well equipped out of early education and even, all the way to postgraduate. Sometimes I think it gets overlooked unless you're a communications major or unless you're going into media and film. They just assume. So, I like to say that the poor stories are forgotten, the good ones are investable, and the great ones are timeless. And what I would love to do over the next 20 minutes or so is hear a little bit more about your story. How did you get to where you're at today? And however you want to tell it.
But to your point of storytelling, it is one of the things for me. I personally, found I had to work on really, really hard because I know what I know about sports. But now I'm in a new field, which I'm about to discuss how I go from playing 13 years in the NFL, always been around sports, to now around technology and science and modeling and engineering. All the things that were...
They speak a different language.
Yeah, a different language. I passed by a few engineering classes while I was on my way to my business classes at Ohio State. But communication is important. We talk about it in sports all the time. The teams that communicate the best, and that's always on the same page, typically play the best. They succeed. They win because, they're able to communicate. Here's what I see was coming. Here's something that, we need to be aware of. Just like in business, right? There's obstacles and different things that, somebody else may see that you didn't, and they alert you and tell you. Or just being able to explain to a coach what you're seeing or what happened. So I was able to do that in sports, but fast forward to the business world.
And if I could just interrupt you, super sorry, because I'm sure you have countless stories of this. It's not just the words, but the ability to connect. And those coaches that connect with you and the players that connect with the coach. So it's not lost. The words aren't lost in translation.
Right. It's been exactly. How do you connect? And so when I say communicate, I could clearly articulate what I was in the space once I kind of knew, like, all right, if we're talking about finances today, I can do that. If we're talking about operations today, I can do that. But being able to connect with different people from different backgrounds, was a challenge because, what you know when the group the group you work with, but now you have people from all walks of life and they respond to things different. So how do I get to the point where I'm at today, where I became the founder and CEO of Windpact? Columbus is the second home. I'll start here in Columbus, where I was fortunate to be able to win a scholarship to the Ohio State University. So I had a pretty successful career here at Ohio State, and I learned so much in Columbus. I like to say I grew from a teenager to a young man here. And I never forget when I was recruited to Ohio State, and I think it's important because I think it really shaped my life. When you're a top recruit in the country, they tell you that you're going to come and you're going to play right away. You can play, it's a spot for you, right?
Yeah.
You think, I'm going to get my number. Yes, you get your number, you get to wear your number. And I never forget the first day looking on the board and seeing Springs is 4th on the depth chart, right? I was like, man, I thought I was going to be a starter. I thought I was, no, guess I was, I'm 4th on the depth chart. But with that being said, I never lost sight of my goal of I wanted to be a professional football player. I wanted to be in the NFL.
You knew that at a young age?
Well, I knew it when I got to Ohio State.
Okay.
That was the goal. My dream since a young age. That is true. Dream since a young age because my father was a professional football player. So I wanted to follow in his footsteps. When I got to Ohio State, I wanted to still have the dream of going to the NFL. So I set a very lofty goal of, hey, I need to be a starter one day in the NFL. But first, I got to get past the fact I'm 4th on the depth chart. I have to be able to be the best in this room. Mm-hmm. I have to be then the best on the defense. And then if I'm the best in the defense at Ohio State, I'm probably one of the best in the Big Ten. If I'm one of the best in the Big Ten, I'm best in the country as a football player. So right then and there, I think early for me, it was about being able to set a vision, being able to see a mid-level goal or low-level goal, and take all the tactical steps to be able to execute. Those are the things I use in business.
Same set of skills.
So that's why, same set of skills. And I was fortunate to be drafted to Seattle Seahawks, which led to me wanting to be in tech. Most people don't know the founder of Microsoft is Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Most people don't know when I was being drafted by Seattle, Paul Allen was purchasing the team. So the team was actually in LA at the time. I get drafted. The Seahawks called me a week later and say, Shawn, would you mind coming out? Mr. Allen, you drive around, you speak to these towns about, getting their voters to vote to keep the stadium. He's putting up his own money, but the voters keep the stadium in town. And riding around with Mr. Allen, one, I was just blown away because, a man that committed $300 million of his own money to keep a football team in town and a promise to redevelop a city. Seattle is a Silicon Forest today. And that was amazing to me that he wanted to buy a team he'd already found at Microsoft. But he said something to me that day when I asked him I never forget the question. I was 22 years old. I said, Mr. Allen, did you know you wanted to be a billionaire? And he said, Shawn, when me and William and Bill, when we were in our office, it wasn't about becoming a billionaire. It was about doing something different. Today, the term probably be disruptive. But I don't know if that was invented back then. But it wasn't about money. It was about doing something different on the internet and the web. And that kind of stuck with me, Kyle. And I just said, wow, it's not about money. It's about inventing, innovation, being different, advancement, providing a service to others. And I looked around and I saw what was happening in Seattle. I had one buddy going to work for a company selling water and coffee for $3. It's like, people buying water and coffee for $3? Starbucks. This is 1997, right? Then there's like one buddy, he's going to sell books online. I thought that was a dumb idea. Like, you want to say, dude, I don't know if I would leave my job. Maybe you should stay at Best Buy.
Nah, no thanks.
Don't do that.
Go sell coffee.
Go sell coffee, man. Go work for him. No, don't go work for a company called Amazon. South American company or something.
It doesn't look the same when it's small.
Right.
Neither did my kids.
That's right. And then, so that kind of like, I grew up in Seattle and that's how I kind of got into tech, what led me to years later to found my company, Windpact. just been inspired by one of the greatest guys, man, and had no idea.
Yeah. And you thought you were going to play football and you got immersed in business as well.
Yeah. You know, because I was his very first draft pick. So he didn't, you know, typically that's a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
You bring a quarterback in.
Sure.
You spend a lot of time, you want to know what his personality is like, if he's going to be the face of your franchise. I was the highest corner drafted at the time in the history of the NFL. I got a chance to spend time with Mr. Allen. I never forget him talking to me about things back then. Like, I would ask him questions about data back then. and I'd be like, wow, okay. Like, everything is information, right? Yeah. Information, data. You know, I knew enough from my computer science classes at Ohio State. And man, I just was so inspired by what was going on at the time. Seattle was still a pretty small community, but Microsoft was creating a millionaire every 12 days. Amazon was coming up. Like, I mean, you think of Boeing was out there. So it was all about innovation. And at that time, football wasn't important. We were terrible, right? Everybody going to the Geek Wide conference. So for me, it was just like, at 22 years old, that's one of the best things that happened to me. Just to get, for 7 years being there, being able to see that city transform to what it is today. And I think it's amazing.
And it lit a fire in you, lit a passion. That flame just continued. And you fast forward through a highly successful NFL career and you find that passion for innovation is still there.
Still there.
And it's stronger and it's growing. And that led you, how did you then step into the initial creation of Windpact? And
every founder, I believe, has a why, right? So my why when we first founded Windpact was I was frustrated with helmet technology around 2010. Most people know about the movie Will Smith, movie Concussion, hearing about all the football players and soldiers suffering. At the time, they didn't know what it was these black dots on the brain. Today, we know it's a CTE and traumatic brain injury. So I was really frustrated with the helmet technology that my dad wore while he was playing in the NFL was very similar to the technology that I was wearing, you know,
Not
30
much
years
change.
later. Not much change, right? And you think about how much a car has changed in 30 years. And you're like, wow. You know, so that led me to I found Windpact, which I originally saw the technology in a baby car seat, which the company called was Durrell Safety First. They had this unique combination of air and foam. I like to say airbag with a mattress inside. That was revolutionizing the way we protect children's head. And technology is still in car seats today. You know, probably sold billions of dollars in the car seats. And when I played in New England my last year, I developed a relationship with one of the executives just over at Safety First, and I saw the technology. He was nice enough to give me a car seat that actually worked and saved my son's life in a car accident. So I
remember you mentioning that.
Yeah,
it became personal.
It became personal. And so I founded Windpact because I was frustrated. I was able to follow my father's footsteps and play in the NFL. And I saw that I had young boys, sons who wanted to play and follow their grandfather's footsteps and my footsteps. So I was like, I have to do something. You know, I'm seeing my dad's friends with the Shakes and things like that. And I just was like, you know, I had a teammate who killed himself, Junior Seau, rest in peace. Me and Junior played together in New England, but I knew Junior from the Pro Bowl and different interactions I had with him. Great dude. And that was my why. So I saw a technology that was being used in a baby car seat, and I wondered if it could be repurposed for what I believe football is, a series of car crashes. And I can tell you why football hadn't changed, but that was like
the why. That was that moment.
Yeah, that was a moment. And it's like any founder, you're like, I think I've identified a problem that needs to be solved.
If for any aspiring founder out there, if they're struggling to find that why, and there's varying degrees of how personal it gets, but if they're struggling to find and be able to answer the why, and all they know is that maybe it's just commercially viable. Is that an okay reason? Does it have to be deeper than that?
No, I wouldn't say it doesn't have to be like the why, but in today's world of innovation, you do have to understand it's solving a problem. Right? I wouldn't suggest you just go out and say, "Hey, I want to create a camera."
Yeah.
You know that shoots
the world needs something new or different or revised.
Yeah. So, and I think that goes hand in hand. Typically, when you are a founder, you are experiencing something that's an unmet need, right? Yeah. It's an unmet need, and that's what gets your juices flowing to want to say this can be done better, right? Some people are natural; they see something, they're like, "Oh, I want to make a change."
Yeah.
But typically, it's an experience or an unmet need that'll get you to saying, "Huh, I should build this, or I should do this, or what if this was like that?"
Yeah. Right? And as you could tell stories upon stories, to confirm, being a founder is not easy.
Yes.
And so the hurdles that you will have to jump through to keep and sustain that company and the people that you'll bring along with you that will rely on you. If that drive and that conviction, however you formed it,
right,
if that drive isn't there, it becomes very hard to continue to push ahead year after year. You know, the headlines will tell us the story of the company that popped overnight and it feels like success fell out of the heavens. Yep. But there's 100 stories that aren't like that. Yeah. And that determination, would you say it comes back to the why? Sometimes?
Oftentimes it comes back to the why, but I mean, you have to, like we say in sports, you have to build up a physical toughness and a mental toughness. You for sure have to build up a mental toughness when you're being innovative and you're doing something that people hadn't seen before, or you have an idea, and there's going to be times where nobody believes in that idea but you. There's going to be times where you don't have all the answers and you don't have a clear direction or clear vision. And you feel like you're in the dark sometimes.
Alone and in the dark.
You're in the wilderness. Like, am I going in the right direction?
Yeah.
You have that, and but I think it's important to understand the difference between what you are good at and what you intend to be good at, setting the goal to be good at something. Right?
Where I'm today versus where I'm going.
Right. You know, and that that's important.
Yeah.
That's very important because you as a founder, you got to understand your intellectual flexibility. I only have but so much room in here that I do this well, but there's other people who do this, and this, and this. And so how do I surround myself with those people?
Which is huge.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And we like to say, and I like to use a sports analogy, you as a founder, you have to be coachable. A lot of founders who struggle may have a brilliant idea, great technology, but nobody wants to work with you. You might, you're not coachable. And although you may be coming up with something new and novel, there's probably somebody else who had the same idea, or somebody in a very similar space that can overcome these. Like at some point, you're a software as a service, right? All right, or you're this.
Everyone's heading there,
right? But at some point, somebody who's ahead of you have had that experience, or have something to share with you, right? And it might not be. Like Amazon started making money when they went to a cloud-based business, right?
Yeah.
But they weren't the best at that, so they had to learn, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah. I want to talk to you, before we end, I want to talk to you about leadership and fatherhood at the end. But before we get there, tell me a little bit more about where your innovation company is today. I know as we've talked, turning building technology that you license out to the world in different avenues. Where's that going? And who else are you bringing into that world? Maybe, again, back to your point, who are we surrounding? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So clearly when Mother COVID hit, a lot of companies had to rethink, direction of their business, what's going on. And that was everybody, not just us, everybody in the world. Mother COVID, she didn't discriminate. And for us, I was scared to death because now we're about to put products on the market, work with great brands from Under Armour and Catcher's Mask and Evil Shield. I'm excited about the products in sports space because the sports near and dear to me, but I had a strategy to attack team sports, then go to the military, and then automotive. So 2020 to 2021 or 2022 were probably some of the most difficult times for me because now no one's buying physical products and your company is based on ingredient technology, a padding solution that goes or integrates into other people's products, whether there's a catcher's mask solvent at 110 miles per hour or working with the Department of Defense on a padding solution for ballistic impacts, 17 feet per second, right? High impacts. So Morgan Stanley had just invested in us. And I was scared to death, and I was the first to raise my hand and say, what do I do? And they pretty much, with a group of advisors and my advisors that I have with my company, just said, well, everyone has to rethink about their digital strategy. You have to come up with some type of way to create revenue. Innovation is not going to stop because we started off as a padding solution ingredient technology and kind of evolved to an innovation company that licensed technologies, develops and licensed technologies to companies. Innovation is not going to stop. So we start looking around at different, high value problems that we've come across during the product development process. Whether that's material database for people to, because a lot of challenge was people weren't seeing all the materials out there. They were only leveraging materials they saw in China. So we started to say, you know what, we have those materials because we got smarter over time with all these different impacts. So we started to create material database, and that kind of evolved to, because we had it, right?
Yeah, you're sitting on
We're sitting on data. We're like, okay, we've got a material database. Yeah, well, we got a list of them, right?
Yeah.
And then that kind of evolved to building out these computational modeling. Since people can't do as much physical testing in person, we always use modeling and simulation. That was a big part of having this dynamic data. We had proprietary data that was actually unique to us.
And help me understand here that this is like modeling, simulating the material combinations.
Yeah, it's a material combination.
To build it and how it performs doesn't, before investing the capital down that path? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, man. Like, you're hot, right? So, and that was a challenge, right? Because a lot of times innovation is stifled because people don't want to make mistakes and they don't want to prototype, and prototype, it gets expensive. So, once you run millions of simulations before you produce the first actual prototype. And our data was accurate. So we went to data and modeling and simulation, providing that service, and kind of evolved to, now we got customers who have problems. They're looking for other impact protection solutions. How about additive manufacturing? The world, with all the macroeconomics that's going on in the world between, I don't like to use the term war, but political uneasiness between countries, inflation and supply chain issues, the price of labor in China changed, obviously.
Now we're fighting over energy and using that as a bargaining tool.
So using that as a bargaining tool. So everything. So now people got to be more efficient. So we start looking at software because our customers, we started saying, well, one of the things that, we're looking at is additive manufacturing, 3D printing things, but the software was there was a niche opportunity where we would ask a person like, how much do you think that part would fit to go in here into the helmet? And they would come back 3 days later and was like, why does it take them so long to turn that around? So we said, well, part of the challenge is, there's not a software that can analyze parts fast enough to be in the machine and stuff like that. We was like, well, let's do it for ourselves because we want to be able to provide solutions. So that software became probably more valuable than anything else we had, because we were just, while nobody could move, while nobody could go visit people, you had to think of things.
Do something during that. Yeah.
So we started developing things. And I was afraid to do it because I'm always a person that believes as a founder, you should have a very singular focus, right? And be able to execute on that. But you're starting to see in the world today, that's one thing, but you got to have different options and different revenue streams and still be able to have one vision, goal, but you got to have different ways that you execute and get there. So
that was a big change for you guys.
A big change for us.
And who are you looking to work with in the future that you weren't working with in the past?
So we've always worked with the manufacturers, like, hey, build this product for us.
Okay.
But now some of those manufacturers are our clients because we
the coin flip.
The coin flip.
You were staring at heads, now you're staring at tails. It's the same coin.
So the coin flip, because we was like, well, have you ever guys thought about this type of software for operational efficiency? Because we want it faster. So the coin kind of flipped. So we work with, the manufacturers. We started off in the additive manufacturing space. We work with the manufacturers who are looking at 3D printing parts and things like that. Because one, they want to be able to quote faster what they, going to print.
Yeah.
Two, operational efficiency. Like, you need to know how many parts in the back end, because how you make money in manufacturing is, if I can reduce my cost by 20% and bring more in the door, I make money, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a big deal.
And capacity planning. So a lot of those guys were struggling with capacity planning. And I just so happened to have an engineer who built the machines in additive manufacturing, who was at HP, and he knew all the challenges. So, because he was a mechanical engineer, they didn't look at him at Hewlett Packard as a software engineer. So he just fixed the problem that their software guy spent $50 million. He did it in a year.
Wow. Another topic, Shawn, that you have a lot of earned perspective, perspective gained in the trenches, on the field, in business. You learn by doing it, and you can't buy that perspective, which is on the topic of leadership.
Yep.
And I know you have spent many days traveling, speaking in various venues, groups, to your peers, to the youth, to the next generation of business leaders, aspiring athletes, all shapes and sizes. Talk to me about where you see the intersection of the critical leadership skills that a founder needs to be successful.
Well, for me, the one thing I would say, and I believe in, is that I'm a servant leader. I think you have to be able to provide a service before you can lead, right? I think you got to learn how to serve before you can lead. What I notice is people will respect you more when they know that you're willing to roll up your sleeves and vacuum the floor, clean the table, do whatever it takes. Because now people are like, wow, he cares. So that would be one of the first things that I would talk to founders about, is just being a servant leader. And also, a servant leader also to me means a good listener. Oftentimes as a leader, you find yourself saying, because I have this title, CEO or Chief Operating Officer or some C-suite title, you find yourself always saying, I have to impart the information on that person. Versus oftentimes the people that see you as a leader, they need to know that you listen to them and that they can give their input, because they know.
And you draw it out of them.
And you draw it out of them. So I think as a leader, that is a critical skill. It's something that people just really need to hone on listening.
Why aren't we good listeners? What do you see?
Ego. I think a lot of things come down to ego. Not necessarily you aren't a good listener, but a lot of us like to do things our way. Well, I have 35 years of experience. Some kid coming out of Rutgers can't teach me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they can. right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it could be our egos, or not necessarily even our egos, because sometimes it's not egos. You might not even realize because you're not trying to be ego, but you're so used to, I've had success this way.
Yeah.
I've had success this way. This is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that works oftentimes. But then there's times where you can stay like this. It's success, how you value success. So that, and I think the third, is, for me, is one, you got to be willing to serve. Two, you got to be a good listener. Three, and the third is just having enough, I think you say emotional intelligence, maybe even the word I use, intellectual flexibility, to understand you don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
Get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You don't have all the answers. And you got to be okay with that.
I think that is something that's really caught more than taught.
I can see that.
So when you're working with a young grad, or you're working with a new employee, or anyone that they look up and they say, man, there's a lot that I can learn from Shawn Springs. He's done X, Y, and Z and all this stuff. And then they get in a room and they're near you and they observe and they see that you know what you don't know, and you're looking to someone else, not clamoring for all the airspace to tell the world what you do know. You're still, at whatever age, looking for what you don't know and leaning on other people. I think that's caught so much. And so I love the leadership work that you do with youth and with industry. And I think just the fantastic person that you are, the vibe you give, the demeanor, the effect that you have on others, it inspires naturally another round and generation of leaders who fit that mold and who have a chance at being successful in a very difficult, challenging founder environment.
Yeah, it is.
And so keep being you, do what you do. And thanks for spending time this afternoon and tell us about your story. And if there's any way that we can help you in the future, because you will continue to do new things and innovate and bring new things that the world is looking for. So thanks, Shawn.
Thanks.